following the announcement that the NDC flag bearer has settled on Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman to partner him in the December polls. There have been various reactions to the announcement, with the governing NPP describing it as a bad choice. But the NDC says the choice of Professor Opoku-Agyeman as running mate was influenced by calls by the grassroots for integrity in politics. Alex Segbethia is Deputy Campaign Coordinator for the NDC.
NDC has a plethora of people who could have filled that position, and many of them had shown or demonstrated interest in actually becoming the running mate to His Excellency. However, one of the things, or a part of the reason why I think she was chosen is because actually she brings a totally different face to the politics of Ghana. If you go around and you speak to many people nowadays, what they tell you is that politicians are all the same. And they also tend to intimate that there is no difference, say, between the NDC and the MPP for some people. And I personally think that the politics of Ghana is going down the drain in terms of the kind of politics we are dealing with and how we perform. To bring in somebody like Professor Opoku-Agyeman, it changes the dynamics and it gives hope to a whole plethora of people that, look, notwithstanding what is happening, there's a hope that we are now going to shift the type of politics that has been played over years into a different form of politics. Politics of truth, politics of standing up for what is right, politics of thinking of people's welfare and putting them at the forefront. And those attributes just go to reinforce the personality of the flag bearer himself, but it gives it an extra boost when you pick a personality like Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman. So for me, that is one of the biggest issues. Her integrity is unquestionable. She is completely competent. She is clearly somebody who delivers. And with all these things, she's a fantastic, pleasant human being. So when you put all these things together, I have the smile on my face because it has made the job of my boss, Professor Alabi, as campaign coordinator, and me as a lot easier in terms of how we move forward.
Meanwhile, former running mate for the Progressive People's Party in the 2016 elections, Bridget Jogbe-Nuku, has described the governing MPP's critique of Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman as pathetic. She says the governing party is simply perpetuating a culture of competition that has not benefited the country. The NPP met the announcement of Professor Agyeman as flag bearer with an attack on her track record as Minister for Education. Speaking on Prime Morning on Joy Prime, however, Bridget Jogbe-Nuku was disappointed in the reaction.
It's pathetic. It's terrible. It's pathetic. I can't even imagine that this person has been given the opportunity to lead and make a difference, and immediately we need to go and dig up dirt on her. Just for political gain, Some of it might be true, some of it might not be true. But you see, we are not static people. We grow and we learn. Whatever she did yesterday or 2 days ago, she's obviously learned and is moving on from there, hopefully to be a better. And if you're going to use this for that reason to cut her down to, I don't know what the point is. You see, they say that we judge people by the things we most detest in ourselves. And this is exactly what Mr. Wabeng Asamoah, if I got the name right, is doing. We judge people by our own shortcomings. And this is what they are doing.
Clearly, this announcement has been received with applause by gender activists in the country who have hailed it as a momentous occasion in the country's politics. We have strong panel today. Joining me via Zoom, also a gender equality and inclusion expert, Dinah Adiko. Professor Techua Menu will also be joining us. And we also would have Comfort Dabo, who is with the Coalition for Affirmative Action. Strong panel, I must say. We'll speak to them shortly. But as you may know, Ghana has had some 6 past female vice presidential candidates. Let's take a minute to remind ourselves who they are. And start with, of course, my guest will be joining me shortly. But let me start with the 6 candidates, amazing candidates. It will be rolling shortly on your screens, and you'll see them shortly. Now, guess what? We have been joined by 2 of these amazing women. First is Bridget Dogbenuku, who was appointed as the vice presidential candidate of the Progressive People's Party. We've also been joined by Madame Sharita Sapong, who was also named as running mate for the CPP in 2012. Of course, we know it is not the first time a woman has been selected as a running mate for a political party. Eva Loko and Bridget Dogbenuku were selected for the PPP. But for a major political party like the NDC, what message does this send? And I'll start with you, Bridget. Hello, Bridget. If you can hear me, yes. I'm finding out. Yes, I'm sure you're amazed, or you're so excited to see that your fellow woman has been appointed as running mate for a major political party like the NDC. What message does this send?
Well, there's lots of messages coming through. I think that it's beginning to sink into the body politic, or maybe the governance of Ghana, that women also have a role to play. In fact, we should have a larger role to play, seeing that we are 51% of the population. I hope that her appointments as a running mate in the NDC is not just so she's a figurehead, but indeed because she brings on a lot of value. I was listening to Mr. Segbefia earlier on, and I hope that what he is saying is as sincere as it comes across, that she is being put there to make a change and make a difference and be seen for what she is, so that when she's making that difference, of course, she won't face opposition, because she comes with certain values, certain qualities, certain principles that for someone, and I went to Wesley Girls as well, for someone who went to Wesley Girls will not compromise on them, and see to it that she is leaving a legacy or a certain change in the party and also in the governance of our country. I think that we've drummed on the fact that she's a woman, but indeed she's a woman with certain qualities and certain virtues, and that is what she should be seen for. And aside from it would be nice that if it was a man who would have those same qualities, but we bring a unique femininity to leadership, and indeed, I think that she's well placed to play that role and make that difference. It's a joy for everybody. That's as you term it, much to my displeasure, a major political party. I think all political parties are major, and we will make them major depending on how much trust and yes, how much trust we repose in them. So yes, for now we'll say a major political party has put a woman there, and I hope that one day a major political party will go beyond putting a woman in vice presidential position and put her in the presidential position.
Let me bring in Professor Techua there. I'm sure you're super excited to hear that a woman has been appointed running mates for a major political party like the NDC. What does this mean for the party?
Thank you very much. Let me begin by just correcting the record. In 1978, Lieutenant Colonel Christine Deborah was selected as the running mate for Dr. R.P. Bafo. So if you're talking about candidates, there has been one. Maybe many of you on this program are rather young, so you may not remember.
Great.
I think that, yes, we were excited. I don't know about super excited and many of the words that you're putting in our mouths. But I think that it is important to put this in perspective. Indeed, we have several parties in Ghana, but we know that there are two dominant parties, the NPP and the NDC. Therefore, the actions that they take in respect of women can go a long way in redressing many of the issues that women face in this country. There is very low political representation of women, both at the executive and in leadership positions. If you look at the election that we are about to hold, the NPP has 24 female candidates. The NDC has 23 female candidates. So these major political parties between them have 47 candidates. Even if all of them were elected, even if all of them were successful, that would constitute only 17% of the 275 member parliament. And it would be nowhere near the 30%, let alone a 40 or 50% representation of women in politics. So I think that we should put things in perspective. It is historic, yes, and there is no problem about Professor Opoku-Agyeman's competence. She has demonstrated it. I'm a little critical about what Dr. Segbefia was just saying about integrity, etc. I think that we should be careful not to place women in this position where they are all the things that men are not. I think that we want integrity in political and national life for both men and women. We also want to see an equal proportion of men and women. So like Bridget, I'm looking forward to the day when a major political party will nominate a woman also as a presidential candidate. I have no doubt in the competence, the track record of my good friend and sister, Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman. We have been classmates from Form 1 in secondary school. We've been in the same dormitory, etc. So there is no problem about that. But we have a lot of issues. Each of the political parties has been in power. They have not addressed many of the major issues that women have faced. And I think that we would hope that if the NDC was successful at the end of the elections, she would bring to bear her many qualities in moving many of those issues forward. But there are several issues, and we are waiting to have them addressed. So yes, it's like the morning after. So you wake up, you hear the news, you feel very good. And then you wake up this morning, and there are all these huge problems that confront women in this country. And I think that it is important for us to have a sense of perspective and balance when we are discussing this issue.
Prof Menu, let me also bring in Comfort Adiko there. I want to gauge your mood on this. We are aware of her brilliant track record and also her intelligent fortitude. But some say she does not wield the political acumen that is needed to match a man like Dr. Bawumia. Does it matter?
Oh, sorry, I was muted.
Yes.
Sorry. My name is Diana Adiko, and not Comfort. I think there's another Comfort on the panel. We are excited. I am excited because obviously I'm young. I'm very young. I'm Professor Techiwa Menu's daughter. I mean, so she's seen it from very different levels and stages from the past to the present. So she knows that we could do better. And following them and being a part of the struggle, we, the young ones, are very, very excited because we've not seen it like this before. I remember when Madam Bridget JoyNews was nominated or appointed, we were very excited. But then we also knew that even though it was a big, bold step, it was not going to change much with regards to the possibility of her becoming the vice president. Yet we saw all the attacks that went on to her because she's female. And the things that were being raised were not about her ability to do the job, but things that had nothing to do with the role. That being said, your question about whether she matches up to His Excellency Bawumia, first, we don't think it's a competition between both of them. And we don't think also the position of a vice president is about the economy, it's about economics, or it's about being an expert in the finances of a country. We think that it is having the ability to support or supplement or complement the effort of the president and the team. And we've seen her before. Fortunately, she's played a role in this country that we all know her name before now. And we think she's all-rounded and she's very excellent. And nobody have raised issue about her competence. And personally, I'm not into the conversation as to whether she can match His Excellency Bawumia or not. She brings what she has to the table, and many of us are confident in that, and we think she is competent to do the job. We are very proud of the things she's achieved in the past and the things she stands for today, and we are hopeful that as we know it, so will it be in case she gets, the NDC gets elected and she becomes vice president. And we think let's dwell on that much more than worrying about whether she's going to talk about economics or not. And we know that being able to speak about it is not equal to being able to execute on the ground. It comes with a lot more things. So for now, let's say it is what it is, and we are happy that the NDC has picked her, and we have a female running mate, and that changes the conversation. It brings a lot of hope for us. For those who were beginning to give up when we were worrying about having things as ordinary as panels for discussion being all males. And then we wake up one day and we're like, okay, we can actually have a vice president in the race, and that person is a female. So we are happy.
Because, of course, many have said that this is an encouragement, because we've all been fighting for a lot of women to be included, or women inclusiveness. Does this make any difference, a woman being nominated as running mate for a major political party like the NDC? Will it make any difference when we talk about ensuring female inclusion across board?
I think it makes all the difference. It makes all the difference. Otherwise, why would social media be buzzing? All of you journalists are getting more information. It makes all the difference. It's a breath of fresh air. I think with COVID and everything happening, a lot of people were beginning to look away from political activities. Then all of a sudden, there's a jack and that we're all up. It makes a lot of difference. How many times have we not said and hoped for women to be in top leadership and political position? So this makes all the difference. It brings hope. It gives us, it gingers the discourse for both for the two major parties. It makes all the difference, and we are very happy about it.
Let me put same question
some of us are hopeful that she wins, and when she becomes vice president, we're also hopeful that we would see certain level of difference as Madam Bridget and Professor Techo Amenu mentioned that we expect that she delivers in a certain way that complements it all. But let me be frank with you. Up to this point, we've seen different kinds of male vice presidents. We've had different feel of what they can do as leaders. I think we should also be open-minded about what Professor Nana brings to board, and also allow her to be and take her steps one day at a time.
Let me put same question to Comfort Dabo, if she can also hear me. I'm asking if this will make any difference, because the obstacles that women have had to deal with this particular fight. What difference will this make in the fight for women to climb the political ladder? Okay, we lost Comfort there. Then I would have to direct this to Sharita Sapon, who is former running mate for the CPP. Does it make any difference? Sharita, are you still there? Okay, we'll try and bring back Sharita, but I think I should go back to you, Professor Techo Amenu. You put the point straightforward there. The fact that she's been described as having myriad of experience in education, also being an intellectual. Yesterday, many of her party members described her as somebody whose integrity is intact. But many say she's just playing a supportive role. What do you think all of these attributes will bring on board as far as governance is concerned?
Thank you, Aisha. A vice presidential candidate is someone who should be able to deputize for the president in his or her absence. A vice presidential candidate plays important roles in the state machinery. Traditionally, they have chaired the police council, they have chaired important offices of state. So it does matter who becomes a vice president. And as I have said earlier, I have no doubt about the competence of Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman to, succeed in whatever she puts her mind to. What I was saying was that I'm uncomfortable about women being lumbered with all the attributes that men do not have. Integrity is important for men and women. We want all our leaders to have integrity. And of course, everybody wants somebody who complements them. And I believe that she does have several qualities that she can bring to bear. However, we should also not set her up for failure. She is not the president. There are things that she can do. There are things that she can initiate. She cannot change the fact that should the NDC win at the end of the year, they are going to Parliament, even on their best showing with only 23 female MPs. And we do have a problem with leaders, with representation of women in this country. We've done very well. We've done a lot of firsts. We've had first female chief justices 2 times running. We now have a first female vice presidential candidate of a major party, but these have not brought about the changes that we need for Ghanaian women. And that is what I'm looking at. So as I said, the symbolism is important. We are very happy, but we need to go beyond the symbolism and to push for real substantive changes. We have several. So we have many provisions in the Constitution that 27 years later have not seen the light of day. The Property Rights of Spouses Bill, the Affirmative Action Bill, all of those things. We have a political system that is based on a winner takes all. How do we move to more proportional representation? I think we need to focus on the issues, for both a president and a vice president. And that is how we will measure the success of how well people are doing. But as I have said, let us not cast doubts. There is no doubt about the competence. I don't know if it was a male candidate, we would be spending a lot of time looking at their competence and all of those things. This is a high achiever. She has achieved in the areas that she has set herself herself to, whether it's in academia or in political life as a Minister of Education. She has been handed a higher calling. I have no doubt that she can succeed, but it doesn't change the reality for women in this country. And me, speaking as somebody from the women's movement, that is where my interest is. And I, as I said, it would be unfair to put everything on her head. Certainly, we would expect if the NDC won, that we would expect that there would be some final movement. Some of these things have been there for a very long time. We've been talking about affirmative action since 1998. The Property Rights of Spouses Bill has been there since the Constitution came into force in 1993. We've got the worsening conditions of women when it comes to gender-based inequality and poverty. All of these are issues. We have a whole huge spate of gender-based violence against girl children, some boy children too, but mostly girl children and women in this country. These are issues that we need to address going forward. And I would like to see that all of this is reflected in the manifesto of the NDC, but also more concretely that something gets done about it.
No, I'm happy that you spoke about the reality, but let me get to Bridget. Bridget, I'm sure you faced some resistance from the men when you were appointed running mate.
Well, yes. I mean, you face resistance from everybody. It's not just men. I mean, it's from all sides, so long as they don't belong to your party. But the one thing that was common was the fact that they downplay your abilities or your capabilities and the talents that you bring to contribute to the party and to the elections. You will always face that, but I think that Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman can hold her own. I mean, this is someone who's held many leadership positions throughout her life, her career. She headed the University of Cape Coast. She can't be one to be buckling under opposition, especially for men. I am sure that she's capable of holding her own and saying to people or telling people where they belong, probably not in as many words. So she shouldn't be cowed by the men. The good thing now is that I think that by this move, they're also starting to realize that, yes, indeed, we need the women's participation in there. And what's going to happen is, I hope that this decision by the NDC will then, even if it's for the sake of competition, if the NPP is also going to see which women they can bring on board, it's a step up for us. It's a departure from the usual, and it's a good thing. I mean, listening to Professor Tetuamenu, it's very disheartening to know that even if all 46 women are voted back into parliament, we are not assured of even 20%. And maybe this is where we should start looking at if the NDC should be successful. I mean, by this move, look at more women in the executive, more women in cabinets, maybe, to be able to change the narrative. And indeed, if it is this appointment is to show that women are capable and also have the right to be in leadership in the country. It should show, like she said, in their manifesto and in their actions. I sincerely hope that it's not just a figurehead thing they're trying to do, but it's in depth. I think that with our politics, we are very fond of doing things on the surface, very superficial. Yes, it's been done, here it is. What we want now is let it be in depth, let it be meaningful, and let it make a difference. And therefore, back to your question about if you will face opposition, of course you will face opposition. People face opposition all the time, but I think that Professor Nana, with her Wesley Girls background, and I think Professor Tetuamenu would know that, and her strength of character and all that, she shouldn't be cowed by whatever opposition she faces.
Sherry Frimpong, I guess you found yourself in, I mean, you were also running a presidential, vice presidential candidate for the CPP. Did you face same opposition from the men?
You're talking to me?
No.
Frimpoma.
Okay.
Okay, so if Frimpoma is not there, we'll try and get here to join. But let me go back to Professor Techiwa Menu. You spoke about the reality, and I'm very happy to hear that. With all the accolades we're giving to Professor Nana Opoku-Agyeman, I mean, for the resistance, it's something you cannot rule out in politics. That will come. But for a person like Professor Nana Opoku-Agyeman, in as much that we're all happy she's coming in this way, there are higher expectations for her. What will be your number one expectation of a woman who's been appointed as running mate for a major political party like the NDC? And your daughter earlier spoke about we looking forward to even becoming females who are running for presidential candidacy. So there are high expectations. What's your number one expectation?
Thank you. So I think I'll use your medium once again to congratulate Professor Nana Opoku-Agyeman for her nomination. The resistances have been there. We have read things in the media from even within the NDC where she's been attacked. As I have said, she has high competence, and I believe that she will do the job when she is given the nod. In terms of expectations, I started by talking about the situation of women in this country. And I've also said that it is unfair to put everything on her head. She is the vice president. But my expectation is that given where she has come from, given the wealth of experience that she has, that some of this will get reflected in the manifesto of the NDC so that we hear clearly what the message is for the people of this country, including the women and the youth and different groups of people. So I expect that competence will first of all be manifest in the manifesto that the NDC will put out in terms of, and that it will contain a realistic appraisal of some of the issues that face us as a country, for women generally in the educational sphere, and that we will be critical. Just last week, I chaired the launch of the CDD's manifesto project. It has a whole list of issues that it's suggesting political parties should look at. I know that political parties have been part of that process. And for me, they are very critical issues that are put out about the economy, about the different sectors, the extractive sector, social protection in this country, gender issues, housing. There are so many issues that need to be tackled. And I think that what COVID-19 has shown us is really how tattered we are as a country and the need to redress these things, and also to bring a certain hope generally to the country. At the function, I spoke about the system that we run in this country, and I characterized it as choiceless democracy. I think that people should not risk their lives in these COVID-19 times going to vote just so things can return to usual. We'll have a passing of the baton, and then it's a turn to also eat a coconut or whatever it is that is there. So we are really looking for a new dawn. We are looking for change in this country. We are tired. We haven't seen that. The rounds of elections that we have had. Ghana is punching below its weight, and we need to rise up. And I believe that Professor Nana Opoku-Agyeman can help to set the vision for the NDC and really begin to lift the spirits of people, because people are really despondent, that for how many times do we have to go around these rounds again? So we should really make it count, that a woman is there But as I have said, let's not overburden her so that when things don't work, it's because the woman didn't pull her weight. She's part of a team, and I expect that she will make her inputs felt. So it's hard for me to take one particular issue that this one is more important than others. I think that the symbolism of her choice should reflect in many other actions that the party will engage in.
Thankfully, Deputy General Secretary of the NDC, Barbara Samoa, is on. She's joining the conversation. And let me find out from you, what does Madam Jane bring on board? I mean, this position, I'm sure a lot must have gone into deciding to put her there as running mate for your presidential candidate, John Mahama.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon to our viewers this afternoon. I must take this opportunity, first of all, to congratulate Madam Jane for her nomination and for the overwhelming approval that was given to her by NEC yesterday. She comes on board with a whole package, integrity, principle, hard work, dedication, and most of all, to represent what the women of Ghana have over the years been fighting for. And I know that in listening to all the strong women who have been speaking this afternoon, I know that it is very, very refreshing to have at this point in time in our life, in our political life as a country, to have a woman of stature to come and calm down there, to give hope to Ghana and to let us know that indeed our democracy has come a long way. And for me, she brings more than just being a woman and coming on the ticket.
What are your expectations of her as a party?
Well, our expectation, I think she has already met our criteria, where a lot of thinking, a lot of research, a lot of background checks went into her selection. And so we are hopeful that she has come to complete the ticket, and we are going to give her the necessary support to be able to carry out what is expected of her. And I want us to know that Madam Jane is not just coming to be one of the female or women running mates that we've had for years. She's indeed going to be the next vice president of the Republic of Ghana. And as such, she's going to be part of the decision making both in the party and in government. And we hope that she's going to bring her rich experience to effect the change that Ghanaian women are looking for.
Well, let me bring in Dinah Adiko. And you are saying that, I mean, per her nomination, it makes a lot of difference. And of course, her performance can even put us on that spotlight where a female president is just coming closer. Now, what are your expectations of Professor Opoku-Agyeman?
Yeah, I expect that whatever it is that made her attractive for this position would remain. I expect that the competence for which she is known would come to bear on the process. I also expect that her being there as a female will not be a representation of one person, but she would find a way of getting the issues that affect women on board to at the national level, such that if it requires mobilizing women, it requires pushing the boundaries a bit beyond.
We lost Dinah Adiko there. Let me bring in Comfort Dabo, who is with the Coalition for Affirmative Action. Is this what are your expectations, I mean, from where you sit as a Coalition for Affirmative Action? You know, affirmative action has been a project we've been working on for so long a time. This must be good news for you regarding where you sit with your coalition.
Yeah, good afternoon to all viewers. To us today, Ghanaian women, Coalition for Affirmative Action, today is really a glad day for us all. Because over the years, many women in Ghana have fought for such an opportunity, We thank the political party, the NDC, former President John Mahama, upon the population so considered a woman to be their running mate. You know, today is really a glad day for Ghanaian women and Coalition for Affirmative Action. We know this is just a stepping stone, you know, and from here we know that there will be a progression, you know, whereby women will be recognized in all spheres, not only for this, but any sphere, because for affirmative action, our main aim is that wherever there is a man, there should be a woman in terms of decision making. And that's what we have done for all over these years. And that's what the affirmative is pushing. And when there is a man, there should be a woman, because women, we carry the message. We are with the children, we are with the husband. So we know the message, what the problem is, and how we have to, you know, come together for development to be effective. So we know when this is a sign of progression, it's a sign for progression for Ghanaian women.
There's some who think that she doesn't wield the political power, or she doesn't have that political experience needed to be a running mate for such a major political party. For you, it is something that is achievable. What will be your expectation of, I mean, the first thing you would want her to do as she comes in, and also knowing that we have less than 5 months to go into the elections? What is one of the first things you would want to see her do?
I think it shouldn't be myself, but for all women in Ghana, our expectation is that she has to prove herself that, yes, women, we carry a sign of boldness, we carry a sign of courage. Not, it shouldn't come and just be that, oh, I'm a woman and therefore I should be in a corner. This should be a brightening stone for us all. It should be a kind of, she should be a light for us all. It should be a light so that political parties can also consider women not just as vice presidential candidate, but even as president. So I think she carries a lot of, should I say a burden, not a burden, but then it should be a sign, she should be a sign that indeed it will prove our hard work, it will prove our, when we have been talking for years, but she should be a sign that, yes, what the women were talking about now, yes, Professor Jane has proved it that indeed women are capable, and she has done it. And therefore, all other women can also do the same. And that's our expectation from her. She should prove herself that, yes, she's born of a woman, and yes, she can do as the men are doing.
I'm grateful, ladies, for joining the conversation. I must say it's been a very interactive afternoon. I spoke with Professor Techua Menu, who is former director of the Institute of African Studies, and also Bridget Jogbenuku, who is former PPP vice presidential candidate. I also joined by Dinah Adiko, who is gender equality and inclusion expert. Comfort Dabo is with the Coalition for Affirmative Action, and very brilliant, excellent submissions there. I'm grateful that you joined us on the Pulse.